Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. See, there's a couple folks still filtering in, but we're about to get started. My name is Kim Norman, and I'm so thrilled to be with you all today at this side event for the UN High-Level Political Forum 2025. We are especially grateful to the Singapore Mission for hosting us today, and to the governments of Singapore and Monaco for co-sponsoring this event. As we get started, we want to wish a warm welcome, not just to everyone in this room, but also to everyone online tuning in and joining us. This conversation is bringing together thousands of people from around the world about the power of sport for social good. We are inviting everyone to be part of the discussion online by using the hashtag #PoweredByRugby and for all women and girls. Please also note that today's conversation is on the record, so it might be quoted by media both in the room and online. So we're here today to talk about sport and partnerships as tools for social impact. Sport is often underestimated in development conversations, but the evidence is very, very clear. When it's delivered with purpose and grounded in partnership, sport can move the needle on some of the most pressing issues that are facing our society today. Everything from gender inequality and violence to empowering our most vulnerable communities. A 2023 global study led by the Commonwealth Secretariat and UNESCO shows that programs that are using sport are already delivering measurable impact towards advancing the social development goals, from health and education to gender equality and violence prevention. This side event also marks 1 month until the Women's Rugby World Cup kicks off in England. Woo. So it feels like a very fitting backdrop for spotlighting one particular case, which is Pass It Back, a partnership between an NGO, an international sports federation, and a network of rugby unions across the globe. Over the next 90 minutes, we'll hear how this model, in this case rooted in rugby, but designed for social change, is delivering measurable progress on SDG 5, SDG 3, and SDG 17, and how it has inspired other models to make progress around the social development goals. Today's event also brings to light the true power of multi-stakeholder partnership. It is sponsored today by 3 organizations and co-hosts. World Rugby is the global governing body for the sport, representing more than 500 million fans worldwide and 8 million players across 132 federations affiliated through 6 regional associations. A lot you keep track of. Child Fund Rugby is a leader in sport for development, delivering evidence-based initiatives that combine rugby with life skills to drive outcomes such as gender equality and violence prevention. And UN Women, the United Nations entity dedicated to gender equality and women's empowerment, through initiatives like Get Into Rugby Plus, UN Women has supported the use of rugby-based life skills training to promote gender equality and prevent violence against women and girls. With a new sports strategy in development, UN Women is helping position sport as a powerful tool to advance gender equality both on and off the field. Together, these 3 organizations are showing us what is possible when sport is used not just for competition, but for change. We're also going to hear from the highest level athletes, from business leaders, and from government champions who are helping to move this work forward. So to open formally, I am so delighted to welcome Karen Ong, Deputy Permanent Representative of Singapore to the United Nations. Singapore is one of our co-sponsoring governments and exemplifies the kind of government leadership needed to unlock sports potential for the social development goals. Please join me in welcoming Karen Ong.
Thank you very much. Hello, how is everybody? I love the energy in this room. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, friends, good afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. It is our honor, Singapore, to co-host today's side event on catalyzing social change through sport, together with Child Fund Rugby, World Rugby, and UN Women. We are meeting today at a very timely and symbolic moment. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women and the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. It is also exactly 1 month until the Women's Rugby World Cup kicks off. A global celebration of women's athletic excellence and a powerful reminder of how sport can break barriers, promote inclusion, and advance gender equality on and off the field. Today's meeting reaffirms our shared belief that sport is more than merely recreation, competition. It is a powerful vehicle to advance the Sustainable Development Goals, to promote gender equality, and strengthen communities. It would be remiss of me if I don't share a little bit about how Singapore is leveraging sport to drive progress on SDG 3 on good health and well-being, SDG 5 on gender equality, and SDG 17 on partnership goals. In Singapore, sport is a key pillar of our national strategy to promote health and well-being. Through Active SG, which is our national movement for sport, we have made fitness and sporting opportunities accessible to people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities. From youth academies to walking clubs for seniors and community wellness programs, Active SG aims to encourage Singaporeans to adopt active, healthy lifestyles, which is important because you know how much Singaporeans love to eat. So we have to walk it off. We are also advancing gender equality in sport, both on and off the field. To support SDG 5, Singapore established the Women in Sport Committee under the Singapore National Olympic Council. The committee drives efforts to uplift female representation in sport leadership, coaching, and participation. Complementing these efforts is our national Safe Sport framework. It establishes clear safeguarding protocols, reporting mechanisms, and education programs to ensure that sport in Singapore is safe, respectful, and empowering for all, particularly women and youth. We're deepening partnerships and expanding opportunities to make sport more inclusive for people with disabilities. Singapore is building a more enabling environment for people with disabilities to participate, compete, and excel in sport. Through our refreshed Disability Sports Master Plan, which was developed in collaboration with the Enabling Sports Task Force and engaged 850 stakeholders, it includes school sports programs and stronger support for para-athletes. All these reflect our commitment to SDG 17. To work closely with the public, private, and people sectors to drive systemic impact through sport. To conclude, I'd like to call on everyone here to seize this opportunity to renew our commitment to sport as a driver of inclusion and harness its ability to uplift communities and catalyze meaningful change. We look forward to this discussion and to engaging closely with all partners to accelerate the implementation 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen, not just for the work you're doing, but for that very important call to action. So today we're here to explore how sport, when used intentionally and backed by evidence, can be a powerful tool to deliver on the social development goal. The SDGs are a shared promise, a global commitment to build a more equal, inclusive, and sustainable world by 2030. But with just 5 years to go, we'd be remiss if we didn't point out that we are falling short on many goals, and that gender equality is projected to take another 140 years at current rate. So what we want to do to begin with is to look at a case study that shows how we can actually accelerate our progress towards achieving those goals. This is a partnership between an NGO and an international sports federation that has reached over 82,000 young people across 36 countries. It's a partnership that's delivering real evidence-based progress on the SDGs, especially around gender equality, leadership, and safe, inclusive communities. And this partnership demonstrates the power of sports bodies, NGOs, and governments working together strategically so that sport can really become a scalable platform for social change. Let's take a look.
It will take more than 140 years to reach gender parity in leadership globally. What if sport could change the game? In 2025, two powerful moments will be united in one unforgettable year. 10 years of Pass It Back and the biggest Women's Rugby World Cup in history. One game, shared goals, real impact, all made possible through partnerships powered by rugby. Since 2015, Global Impact has reached 36 countries, registered more than 82,000 players, and accredited more than 3,100 coaches. More than 50% of players and coaches are girls and women. These players and coaches have not only realized their right to play, they have learned critical skills that enable their communities to be inclusive, safe, and supportive. All of this work has shown how sport can be a powerful platform for delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals, supporting gender equality through effective partnerships that evidence change.
Nasa lagi ko nga nakita ko nga ang sa bata mga babae nga sa mula wala masyado sing confidence niya ako balingon. May lang gahipos ka nahuya sa makipag-istorya sa iban is nagigisa ka ngayon naging leader siya.
When global sport and development join forces, we don't just play the game, we change it. It's time to move sport from the sidelines and into national strategies to support strong communities where everyone thrives.
So this is the power of sport when it is rooted in purpose and driven by long-term partnership. To dive a bit deeper into what this partnership model can unlock, I'm so pleased to welcome two leaders who have been central to this journey. Meg Knight is co-director of Child Fund Rugby, the organization behind Pass It Back, Grassroots to Global, and Get Into Rugby Plus. Sports for development models that are driving change through rugby in partnership with national federations. And Sally Morex is Chief of Women's Rugby at World Rugby. Her leadership is shaping the future of sport and ensuring the growth of the women's game delivers lasting change, both on and off the pitch. Welcome. It's so amazing to be here with both of you today. I just want to take a moment, Meg. I mean, 10 years of Pass It Back. Thank you for the incredible work you're doing. Congratulations on this really incredible achievement and milestone. The video mentioned that Pass It Back has been, grounded in a decade of evidence. Can you talk a little bit more about how it started and what inspired its development?
Yeah, thanks so much. Definitely it's been a journey with so many partners, so many people, many in the room, many online, thousands around the world. So thank you everyone for all you've done to get to this journey. It really started with a concept, 5 small villages in the north of Laos, looking at an opportunity to bring together young people to play and lead and find some space for that. And now it's grown to 15 countries, always in partnership with unions and the federations to deliver it, to recruit young coaches who are new to the sport, and to really build up a model that can be sport for development that the federations can own and really deliver in their communities. Each season is built around a module, and those modules are contextualized. So there's maybe planning for the future, which is financial literacy or preventing violence, but gender equality it cuts through all of that, and it's really looking at really how young people can lead in a way that's more gender. And throughout it all, the partners, the federations are using tools to measure the change from the beginning to end of the season, so they can really have access to information and analyze how intentional integration of sport and life skills allows us to track changes in knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors around important of gender equality outcomes, and to generate that evidence base that helps the coaches to lead their players, helps the communities to see what the benefit of sport and rugby is, and also helps donors and all of us as we work towards our shared sustainable development.
Incredible. And one of the things that's so powerful about what you've done is over half of not just the players, but also the coaches are women. What strategies have you used to get girls and women at all levels of program?
Yeah, so first, really importantly, is that we work with young people brand new to the sport. So all of the coaches are 16 to 25 years old. And that's quite a young demographic for coaches. And boys and girls are often brand new to coaching at that age. And so it really has a level playing field. And then there's a really intensive training that helps young people to think about. They learn how to coach rugby, they learn how to coach life skills, they learn how to use those tools to measure change in their community, and really are equipped with everything they need to deliver at scale in their communities. And they are, I think, those have an assessment at the end of it where that sounds a little bit maybe strict, but actually it's become a real big confidence builder for young people to think about I have the confidence to do this. I'll be a respected member of my community. I'm a badged coach, and what that looks like. So you could see in the video Jen. She's a young person who really came up from a player to a coach and then to be an educator. And there's so many examples of that all around the world. And so it's really being intentional about who can be an educator, who can be in that space, and who owns the game and who has the knowledge to train up the next generation of young people who will be leading it. And also redefining for communities and challenging societal norms about who can lead. So very exciting too. To see so many young people set that.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I also imagine the more girls and women who move through and then are in the coaching and leadership positions, the more female participants you get, and it's just a virtuous cycle all around. And Sally, you've also been very focused on advancing gender equality, not just on the pitch, but throughout governance and leadership. Can you share more on that, how you've done that?
Of course. But please can I just say how honoured and pleased we are today to be sat alongside everybody in the room. We're delighted to share more information about our partnership with, in particular with Meg and Child Fund Rugby, but we're here to learn as well and hopefully spread the word and support others in our endeavours. And we are 1 month to go to Rugby World Cup 25, so it's a really busy time. It's getting incredibly real because that's such a great platform and such a great showcase for girls and women around the world. But just to bring it home, I've spent quite a lot of time in Kansas recently and the last week in Washington watching your amazing USA athletes on home soil bring 10,000, 15,000 fans into stadium. With Alona Mar taking centre stage and Michelle Kang as an investor in your national teams. So that's been quite spine-tingling to see the pace of progress here and that support for your female Eagles athletes. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because the sport has been exceptional. But back to the question. What are we doing at World Rugby? Well, women are a strategic priority for us. So this starts from the top. At the heart of our strategy is women driving the growth. We are re-engineering the future of rugby through women and girls, essentially. With bold intent, we have to be held accountable for that as well, really important, if we're going to reflect the society that we serve. So that's supported at the highest level. So in our policies, we now have 40% representation of women on our boards. Board of directors, our executive, we have 40% plus there. We have similar numbers, 40% on our council, which represents the global game across those 130 countries. And we're working hard with our unions because essential that cascades down, and we're working internally with our executive teams and leadership because there's always more that we can do. And then when we go to partnerships, we embed partnerships, critical partnerships at the highest level in that strategy. with really clear intent. So in my first weeks in this job 3 years ago, I met Meg in South Africa. We climbed up Lions Rock together, if you remember. Got me out of bed at about 4 or 5 in the morning and decided that the best way to do business was to climb Lions Rock. And from there, a really firm friendship has grown, but embedded over 10 years in the development plan for rugby globally, with real trust and confidence in each other's organisations. And it's all coming together now. So if you were to stand at Twickenham Stadium at the final of the Rugby World Cup, there will be 82,000 people in that stadium. We've sold the tickets. We were heading to sell out. This programme with Meg and her organisation, we'll have seen 82,000 beneficiaries of this programme also come through this programme. So there's a real synergy in that moment, 10 years on. And that's driving investment, it's driving change in girls' lives, but it's also growing rugby because girls are the fastest section of our sport for growth. Teenage girls, that's where the growth markers are being made with great ambition for the future. And then finally, we have great partners, multi-partner activity, child fund, but we also have Shannon Gallagher in the room who is going to come and join us. And we have great partnerships with Gallagher around high performance academies for coaches. We have great partnerships with Capgemini around leadership for women. And then we also have great research and insight, which is also embedded in strategy around what tangible social return on investment our programs are making, so that we can see the anti-obesity, the pro-health, the dropping in osteoporosis, the reduction in breast cancer, the economic benefit. Those are embedded in strategy. So I'm conscious I've given you a long answer, but those are all those are quite intentional strands that knit together. But thank you, Meg, for the work over the last 10 years.
Truly, when do these two sleep?
You painted that picture, Sally, of the World Cup final, thinking about that kind of really high profile event, and also, this increased visibility with higher profile athletes and attention on it. How do you use these types of events to advance the gender equality goal?
They are a very important part of our portfolio, if you would like, the tools that we can use. So we view the World Cups, the major events that we own, because we own a 7 series as well. If you're thinking about the LA Olympics coming up, and we own the World Cups for men and women and some of the youth competitions. They're a platform. They're a platform for systemic change, and they're a marketing platform, if you like, for visibility and for communication of messages. And we take that quite seriously. So we use them to drive lasting change. It goes beyond the moment that the final whistle is blown. Really important. So again, that's in our planning. And in our planning, we have a plan called our Impact Beyond 25. We had it, Impact Beyond in 2019 for Japan. And for me, we have it Impact Beyond 2025 for women. And that drives, again, intentional change. And that's 9 programs. And we can certainly give you more information if anyone would like to have a look at how that's constructed. But they fall under profile and participation. There are 3 programs that build profile and participation, inspiring more girls to play, support, and lead in rugby. And some of Meg's programs fall under that banner. And we have a program called Rugby Rising. So 42 countries have now got investment to run Rugby Rising programs for women and girls, and some of the programs that Meg is championing also fall into that coordinated plan. Then we have careers and gender equity as a second pillar, which is investing in career pathways and leadership, and those coaching programs that Meg has described in the countries around the world where we partner are bringing up tens of thousands, ultimately, of junior young coaches coming through the system. Again, so proof points that we really are, with our partners, making a difference. And then the third pillar is capability and expertise, which is where we're working with those 133 unions to build their growth plans, so that they have really clear understanding of the tools and the insight and the expertise, and we can support them to build inclusive systems. That's a really important part of our work. And we bring those unions together in regions, much as the discussion I had this morning and with definite around UN Women, we have regions, 6 regions around the world. So we pull together the leaders, the female and male leaders, to understand how they're building inclusive systems so that they can share their plans and spark off each other with their initiatives. And I'll just close with 2 examples of those type of partnerships that extend beyond our sort of boundaries. We're working with UK sport connected to the Rugby World Cup 25 and Africa as a region. And we are championing 12 amazing women, 2 from 6 countries each. They're on a year-long development plan with us, funded by the UK government, co-funded by us, and they're attending a lot of the summits and regional work that Meg is doing. And those 12 women will be the future, we believe, along with others, of rugby in Africa. And some of them are really young, and they are going to be amazing leaders for the future. They will come to the World Cup. They have a year-long development program. So multi-partner support, uniting together to champion women. And all of that culminates in the summit that Meg's team, Chalfont Rugby, are going to host the week before Sunderland, which is the opening game of Rugby World Cup 25. When many of these amazing leaders, 98 scholars, the impact champions, we all land together for a week in Sunderland for what's going to be an absolutely remarkable week. So those are the examples right now of how Rugby World Cup 25 is bringing this to life.
Such a linchpin for so much good work.
Thank you.
To wrap this up very briefly, Meg, what are you looking forward to as we really build on this foundation that we built?
Yes, well, everything that Sally said, I'm very really excited to work on all of that together. And I mean, we don't have to wait long, just 1 month until the Rugby World Cup kicks off. And so 68 delegates from all over 33 countries will come together in Sunderland, and it will be an amazing opportunity to connect with community games to the global excitement. And looking further ahead, I mean, I know all of us here really 2030 is a big time for the Sustainable Development Goals, and 2030 is also, we'll have 3 more Rugby World Cups done by then, and we're really looking at in our partnership to reach 500,000 young people through rugby and life skills work by that time. So really looking at how we can play a key role in driving key goals forward, especially around gender equality outcomes.
Fantastic. And Sally, beyond the World Cup, what else is on the horizon in the future for you?
Well, just if we stay on our sustainable development goals for a moment, because as you said, the brief is very broad within rugby, but we are prioritising inclusive leadership at all levels in the sport, working on that cascade down to the unions. So we really are global in the change that we can influence and affect. Investing in women decision makers, critically important. We've got to back that with policies and partnerships. We're on our way, but I think there's more we can do. And ultimately, what we're trying to do here is re-engineering the future of our sport. But we're doing that, we're strengthening the sport, we're sustaining the sport on and off the pitch. And we're doing that through women and girls. And it will be, I hope, a sport where women and girls feel they truly belong. That is the global ambition.
An important one. Thank you both so much for these incredible insights. Thank you, Meg. It's clear that this is a fantastic partnership.
Sally gets to stay with me up here. And next, I'm very pleased to welcome our panelists for the session: inclusive sport, driving gender equality, ending violence, and building partnership. Thank you very much. In addition to Sally, we are going to be joined up here by Nia Radzai Gungun Wanda, Deputy Executive Director of UN Women, Alex Cedric, Olympic bronze medalist, and Shannon Gallagher, Head of Partnerships Activation, Business Development, and Sales at Gallagher. You could all
Welcome to all of you. It's such a thrill to have this group together. I want to start off by asking you, Nirodai.
Yes.
You have, we'll let you get seated. You have spent your career championing gender equality and girls leadership from global policy to grassroots action. I'm curious, when you look at initiatives like Pass It Back, what can sports-based programs uniquely achieve in advancing gender equality? You know, what makes something like the rugby pitch a uniquely powerful space for changing attitudes about girls leadership?
Thank you. Thank you so much. When we decided and said we want to partner into this event, this morning I struggled what to wear. So I really wanted to be in my rugby shirt with my cap and not be so formal and yet be still a diplomat and still, because this is what sport brings. It deconstructs the multiple worlds we live in. And as UN women, we know, and as when Sally was sharing here with Megan, I'm like, this is it. Because it's about transforming policies and systems. To say rugby, girls can enjoy, can be part of, can actually transform certain sport, which is perceived to be male, to be for men. And so just changing the thinking, the attitude, the social norms is critical, but equally changing the rules of the game. Changing the rules of the game and also changing who makes decisions. So that conversation around sport governance is super important so that both men and women, young and old, seasoned and nurturing, are all part of the transformation. So we have to change the governance structures and systems for them to be inclusive, change the social norms, and also change when do people go for practice. Because the time we go for practice is so determined by also the other social roles that young women have, that those in school have, those out of school they have. It also brings some of the hidden conversation. It's okay to play rugby when I'm having my period. The little girls do not need to feel that I can't play sport when my breasts start to show. So we need those sports bras. We need the nice pants for making sure I can play when I'm having my period. So it actually transforms certain conversations within our society. And as UN women, we have a very strong commitment. My executive director, Dr. Sima Babus, like Nyaranzai, we also even need the Paralympics. You know me and my stick. We need to engage not also in the context of disability, but the relationships that we have had with the Olympic Committee has been very important. And for us, we are still celebrating Kirsty Kovac. To have a woman as the president of the Olympic Committee, it sends different messages. For us to also have governments, Monaco, Catalonia, Qatar, saying, you know, this is part of achieving the sustainable development. I think the most reflection I want to have is it's hard for women out there. It's pretty hard. It's always the story of poverty, no water, the struggles. And at times we forget that we have the right to enjoy, the right to simply go for the game and to be in the game and to come back energized to therapy, to come back feeling good even if you have not scored, even if you have missed the ball, but you were part of. And that is equality that we are looking for. But, you know, I'm also doing a little dance in my heart. For the first time in 28 or 30 something years, my own country qualified for World Rugby, Zimbabwe. It's out for your own country, but I couldn't resist.
Nor should you. Such powerful reflection, and not it, you know, not just thinking about the fact that we get girls in the game, but really how we do it and the broader impact of everyone seeing that it is for girls. Smith, I want to get you into this conversation. You have experienced the transformative power of sports at the highest level. And for those of you who have not seen her bronze medal winning try, make sure you look that up after this. It's pretty incredible. What have you seen and experienced about the ways that playing sports changes the lives of girls and women? What happens that changes things when you step onto that pitch?
I mean, it's so hard to put into words, but I would just say, looking at it from an example of like me being here, I probably would not be in a room like this and have the opportunity to speak to so many important people who are really driving change, especially for young women and girls. And it's so crazy to think that because I throw around a ball with my friends and I like rugby, that I've been given a platform and an opportunity to come speak with them today. So I'm really excited about that. But there are so many things that sport can do for young girls and women, and I think one of the biggest things is just confidence and empowerment and female empowerment. And it's so important because when we see these young girls be able to kind of get that self-esteem, they find themselves and they learn things that they didn't know and they overcome things that they didn't think they could overcome. Resilience is huge in any sport. And I think that you're faced with a challenge, and when you overcome that challenge, you become so proud of yourself. And when you work together with, a team, learning to work with a team is huge as well. When you're able to have a common shared goal with somebody, and like I will not let you all forget, we've said it multiple times, Rugby World Cup's in 1 month. So when those girls step onto the field, they know that the people that they're playing beside them, the people who are the team behind the team, they've all come together for that common goal, and they've learned teamwork and collaborative success and kind of just putting like a team first mentality. It can be so powerful to be surrounded by so many strong women, and I've had such a privilege of working with so many strong women. And it's just such a great thing for women and young girls to be able to step out there and know that they're capable of more than just being seen or just being pretty. So it's really important, and I'm really blessed to be in this industry.
Incredible. I know you and I were reflecting on the transformative power that our rugby teammates and being in that community has had on us long term. Thank you for that. We know this kind of impact, doesn't happen by accident. It's actually taking a lot of folks coming together, including the private sector and the resources behind it, and partnership to make sure that we are all making this lasting impact as we're growing the game. So Shannon, you have helped lead some of Gallagher's biggest sports partnerships, including your strong support for women's rugby. Why do you believe investing in sport is not just impactful, but really essential for addressing complex social changes like gender inequality and violence?
Yeah, absolutely. So glad to be here amongst this amazing panel of women, but those who know me well know that rugby is actually very important in my life, both personally and professionally. So very honored to speak to this topic. And thank you for including a private sector point of view in the panel. As has been mentioned, when done with intention, sport truly has a unique power to shift harmful social norms, to promote safety, and to really empower girls and women to lead, right? At Gallagher, we partner with organizations around the world that share our values. And in women's sports, for us, we like to look at where we can lift women and girls up in the communities where we live and work and play. And as a global organization, thinking about that as the scale where we have really recognized that we have the ability and responsibility to impact people's welfare in a very powerful way, right? And then so yes, in women's sport and women's rugby in particular, we look at this as a way to provide skills and tools for women and girls to see themselves as future leaders, right? And in rugby in particular, we've decided to lean into and investing in coaching development, right? So the Gallagher High Performance Academy is looking at taking interns that are at the elite levels of their game and saying, we see in you the ability to be a coach. So after the pitch, be a coach, be a leader in the organization. Coaching is highly visible as an entryway into leadership, not only within the sport, but in the community and in business, right? And then with World Rugby and their partnership with Child Fund, we've been able to take that curriculum of high performance academy and bring it into the grassroots to global to say, hey, if we can help younger women coaches, rugby, coach rugby, then more girls will stay in the game, right? And what's the snowball effect of that? And all the things in which they now have the ability to see themselves in the future, they really couldn't have imagined was possible, right? So whether that is a girl in a developing economy, or whether that is Sarah Hunter, who is going to take the pitch with the Red Roses next month as a coach for the England national team, who's a graduate of the High Academy, right? So these are very tangible outcomes and reasons why we think it's very important. If we want to see gender equality and women in leadership, we can do that through sport. We can do that through women's rugby. But to kind of finish on the element of the private sector, right? We like to support these initiatives that help these women and girls see it in themselves. But when Gallagher makes the decision to invest like this, it signals to the business community, it signals to teams and broader community that we recognize future talent, right? And so that meets the girls and the women where they are when they come through these programs. And that is uniquely the impact that I think the private sector can contribute in making these programs happen and be role models in the broader community than receiving these women as leaders.
Such a critical impact on how mission and capital work hand in hand. Sally, with everything you kind of teed up for us before this panel started on the work that you're doing, what have been the biggest challenges and breakthroughs in making all of this happen through World Rugby's global strategy?
Thank you. I think for us, we have a global responsibility to steward the global game. So culture and context come to mind first. 133 unions, 132, 133 unions, 6 regions. So understanding the context of governance and the particular economic, social, gender issues in the countries that we are working is critical. Because one size certainly doesn't fit all. And that's a real challenge. And you have to have a really strong listening ear, because the solution that you might be offering is not the solution that is sought in that particular country. Resources and funding, absolutely an issue globally for, I think, the work that we do, the work that global sport does. And finally, time. It takes time, it takes consistent application, dedication, commitment to effect change in governance and leadership in some of the areas that we work in, and I hear that across the sector. So those would be the primary or challenges that certainly I've observed. In terms of breakthroughs, and I appreciate, I'm excited and delighted to be in the role that I'm in, because we have buy-in at a senior management level. We have strategic purpose and direction. Our collaboration is getting stronger with those unions, meeting those countries where they are, to use Shannon's analogy. And participation, girls rugby is the fastest growing section of our sport. So if you want evidence of the appetite and enthusiasm for the game, these are the breakthroughs. And then we have the platform of Rugby World Cup, which provides that moment to amplify. And then we have the purposeful partnerships with Child Fund, with Gallagher, with Capgemini, the UK Sport. So yes, there are definitely challenges, but we are breaking through. But it is that purposeful intent and that sensitivity to understanding the context and culture in which we're working.
Thank you, Sally. Such rich reflections. Okay, we are almost at wrap up time, so we're gonna do before we close, a very, very quick rapid fire round robin, let's say 20 seconds apiece on responses here. Just first thing that pops to mind. So let's start with you, Neera Rezai. What's one action you'd love to see more governments or donors take like tomorrow to unlock the full potential of sport in advancing gender equality?
One. Sporting with a team. It's always with a purpose. We're kicking out child marriage. We're kicking out violence against women. We're kicking out inequalities. We are scoring for humanity. We are scoring for dignity and for human rights. And that has been my experience, including for the small girls soccer tournament that I run in my club. So small. When you're 30 teams, it's not small. It's really to say the power, unleashing the power of communities. And for World Rugby, it's understanding the inequalities that girls who grew up in the village like me, you may have wanted to play rugby, but you may not have had the infrastructure for rugby. So we ended up just doing athletics and running, and because that was what is available. So to my governments, it's about equalizing opportunities for women and girls in communities and globally for justice for rights and for empowerment.
Shannon, what's one piece of advice you have for those considering investment in, in program sports programs like Pass It Back?
I'm not gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you three, but I'm gonna be really quick, right? So first is seek out other partners that have intention for inclusivity, right? Don't do sponsorship the normal way. Go out there and look for others that share your values. And then develop something new, right? Like you can bring your own values together and create new ways of doing this. And it's okay to start small, but be consistent. So it really all comes back to knowing who you are as an organization, what your intentions and values are, seeking out those partners with intention. Don't get started.
Get started. Yeah. From the athlete perspective, what's kind of one thing that the sports system would do to make it more inclusive for female athletes on the pitch?
I would say visibility. I would say everybody watches women's sports. There's definitely a market for people who want to be involved. We just saw in Kansas City, there was a record-breaking crowd of over 10,000 people. Sally was there. She can speak to that. But even just this last weekend in DC, another record-breaking crowd, 15,000 people coming out to see our women's rugby team. So it's really just about showing the world that like women can take up space in this way. Women are allowed to be athletes and have other careers. They can be mothers. They can be anything they want to be. And at the end of the day, showing that it's okay, no matter what it looks like, that women belong in the space.
And everyone here will be tuning in to the World Cup. Sally, to bring us home, from the governance side, what's one thing international federations need to do differently to truly drive inclusive sports, and how can government help enable that?
I think I spoke a little bit to it before in the closing statements from a discussion with Meg. I think it's prioritizing inclusive leadership is critically important at all levels. We've obviously had success as we've done that with our representation and our policies, but cascade that all the way down. And a lot of the programs that we're working on have that ambition. And invest in women decision makers. So give them the tools and the authority to influence and to make those decisions. And then, if we are doing that together, I think we should always have in our mind, we talked a lot about intent on the panels today. I think what we're doing then is creating the future that we want. So if we can prioritise inclusive leadership, investing in the decision makers and be quite intentional, we will then create a future where every girl and every boy in sport has that equality of opportunity, and the world will be a better place, frankly. Well,
Thank you all for your vision and your passions. You're all incredible in the work that you're doing. We had such a rich discussion that we won't have time for Q&A, but I would encourage everyone in the room to come find this incredible group of panelists afterward and ask them all of your questions. Thank you all. So while these incredible women are clearing out, I am very, very pleased next to welcome Chris Favardo, the president of Community at Angel City Football Club, which is the women's professional soccer team based in Los Angeles. That in a very, very short time has developed a global reputation for using cross-sectional partnerships to drive social impact. So a really interesting perspective for us. Chris has led partnerships and community impact for sports for over a decade, including at Positive Coaching Alliance and now at Angel City, where the club has reached over 300,000 people and was recently named the 2024 SDGs Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year. A passionate footballer with gold medals from the Paris Day Games and Sydney World Championships, Chris brings deep experience in using sports to drive equity. Over to you, Chris.
Great, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Just to start, I also struggled with what to wear today. So I did on my professional conference kit, but would definitely prefer my football kit any day of the week. You know, I'm so excited to lead this session on government's role in advancing gender equity and social impact through sport. You know, the high-level political forum is the main platform where governments come together to follow up, review, and achieve the 17 global goals. Now, this should not be new news. Every single report that we have read at the forum says that we are not on track to reach the SDG goals by 2030. But there's hope. Sport, whether it's football, if it's rugby, any sport, can be a tool that propels us and moves us forward towards these goals. Because in truth, sport is more than just recreation. You know, as Ken mentioned earlier, the evidence is clear. When it's delivered with purpose and groundbreaking partnerships, sport can move the needle in some of the most pressing issues we face. Using sport for development has quietly but powerfully contributed to social cohesion, gender equity, youth empowerment, and peace building. Now, I'm honored there are many governments that are joining us today, but I'd like to extend a special welcome to Her Excellency Laura Chinchilla, former president of Costa Rica, representative of the government of Lao People's Democratic Republic, which has been a pioneering champion of sport for development, and Lao PDR is where Pass It Back was founded. And it's programs like Pass It Back, which is funded by Australia, New Zealand, and the UK that utilize government funding and cross-sectional partnerships to effectively offer holistic programming to their constituents. But where does the responsibility lie, especially for bringing communities together? We heard earlier from Karen Ong how sport has been integral into Singapore's identity. She demonstrated how government holds responsibility to bring communities together and how we can be more effective in achieving these SDG goals. Now, I'm honored to have some additional leaders with us today who have been true champions in using sport to create some positive change. So first, I'd like to introduce Stephanie Lesson, Deputy Permanent Representative of Monaco to the United Nations. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jonathan Passmore, Counselor at the Permanent Mission of South Africa to the Union. Welcome. Third, I'd like to introduce Daniela Tonon, First Counselor, Head of the Sustainable Development Department at the Permanent Mission of Italy to the UN. Welcome. And then last, Vitorino Oliveira, First Secretary of the Permanent Mission of Portugal to the UN. Welcome. So I'd like to start with Monaco. I mentioned earlier about the power of sport and have leveraged how it could potentially help us achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Monaco has long been a leader in sport development. Of note, during the negotiation of political declaration of 2030 agenda, Monaco promoted, with the support of several delegations, the inclusion of a paragraph recognizing sport as an important enabler of sustainable development. So Daphne, to you, can you share with us, as co-chair of the group of Friends of Sport for Sustainable Development, how is the group promoting gender equity and social impact through sport?
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on a very important topic for my delegation. Monaco is a strong believer in the power of sports and as an enabler of peace and sustainable development. We believe that sport is much more than a game, and my delegation has been co-chairing the group of Friends of Sport for Sustainable Development since 2010. And we've been active, I would say it's regarding gender equality, it's been twofold. It's by promoting and raising awareness, by inviting sports federation, NGOs, civil societies and government, and put them together in a room to show them what tremendous aspects sport can have on everyday life and for all the SDGs and also gender equality. You mentioned the 2030 political declaration. We also worked for the inclusion in the Pact for the Future that was adopted last September. And this is the other aspect of the group of Friends also, is to make sure that there is the political advocacy, to make sure that there is a reference in all the texts that are being adopted to keep on raising awareness. We've been working on the different resolutions of the Commission on the Status of Women, Commission for Social Development. And it is very important for us to make sure that it is still high on the political agenda, to make sure that and there is a mandate and there is something to encourage, all these sports activities.
Thank you. It's incredible to hear about the commitment as a country that you've made to sport for development. And I believe that commitment, not only rings true as a country, but also, rings true to even individuals. And so thinking about Prince Albert II and his major commitments to using sport for development. And I'll say even from, place that I live in Los Angeles, and how well he is known for his looking at sport for pushing resiliency, self-determination, like seeing all of the intrinsic values that sport brings, and how an influential person can be one that can cast a sea of change and how individuals look at sport. Similarly, for the football team that I work for, one of our co-founders, I feel like this is a very Hollywood piece, is actress Natalie Portman. That's a nice fun name drop. She went to a women's professional match and she was with her son. He so enjoyed watching the team play that he wanted to purchase a jersey. And so they go into the team store and sadly find that there was not a single jersey for them to purchase. And she thought, such a simple thing. She's at the women's match, like, how could this be? So she starts to do some digging and quickly finds that the inequities that exist are so much deeper than just a jersey in a merchandise store. That, representation and even the compensation for players, that there was such deep rooted inequities within the sport that she wanted to do something different. She wanted to create change. And really, that's where our football club emerged from, was looking at how you could create a team that valued players, that compensated them for their time, their work, and also valued a team, and thinking about sponsorship that was talked about earlier, and the power of partnerships, but really uplifting and using sport as a catalyst for change. And I will say that, Angel City has only been around since 2022. It's a very young team. And I'd like to turn to a country that's actually has much deeper history, and that's South Africa. And we sit here in 2025, 30 years later after the iconic 95 Rugby World Cup, the first major international sporting event held in South Africa after apartheid. And, Nelson Mandela, his public support of Springboks made sport a unifying force, in which obviously South Africa won. So Jonathan, my question to you is, given South Africa's rich history and legacy using sport as a tool for national unity, but also social change, how is the government building on this history and position of sport as a driver of peace, youth development, but also gender equity, both domestically and internationally?
Thank you, Alan. Yes, thank you. Interesting you mentioned the 95 World Cup. I was a 14-year-old kid watching that event happen. We were 1 year out of the project. Like, we didn't know what was happening in the country. We didn't know where we were going. But we got like the rugby came, and I remember we were very scared of John Olombi. Those who know rugby will know that he was phenomenal at that. A 20-year-old beast. There was a news story the night before the final explaining how to tackle John Olombi. The reporter resolved that the best option was a plank. But since then, we've had a journey as a country to work on unity. South Africa is by no means a perfect project. We work hard at it every day. We have conversations that are awkward and uncomfortable. And rugby has been the expression of that. For years, I argued with my friends on the importance of quotas in rugby. Quotas isn't a dirty word in South African rugby. What we needed to do was to overcome racial inequalities in South Africa. And what we needed to do was recognize that rugby and sport in general needed to advance merit, but it needed to put on place role models for people to follow. And you couldn't necessarily say merit was in isolation. Merit is built on a platform, and those with more advantage, more privilege, and come from a position of greater advantage, they have greater access to that merit. And we needed to address those inequalities. And we see that in gender. This is what we talk about when we advance women into heightened positions, because we get the benefit at the end of the goal. But we must recognize the inequalities that they have already overcome to get to that position, just to be in the right. But then something special happened 6 years ago. Actually 7 years ago. In 95, we saw Nelson Mandela present the World Cup to Francois Pienaar. In 2019, we saw our first black captain lift the World Cup. And they made a documentary, so the rugby guys here may have seen it, it's called Chasing His Son. When they made the second version of it for the 2023 World Cup, they talked about the new documentary that makes South African men proud. And I just want to highlight something from that documentary, which is very important to me. It made me cry. Ugly tears, really ugly tears. Like, first ugly tears. There was a moment in 2019 World Cup where South Africa was dealing with a horrendous femicide, a brutal murder of a young woman who was killed in a post office by a postal worker. And it caused massive protests. We really struggled to emphasize that. And the country was pouring out and saying, this has to end. The rugby players took a stand in the World Cup in Japan. They may have upset World Rugby, I'm not sure. But they took a stand, and a simple thing, they wrote on their armband, RIP. And they made a stand, and it had significance. The Springboks are now seen as a uniter towards addressing gender-based violence, addressing women's inequalities. And as a result, we're starting to see women's rugby growing in South Africa. And we're starting to see things happen. The South African government will do anything, will be there in support but sport has a life of its own. We just have to make sure that life is able to has the platforms to grow. So what we'll be doing is to put in place the fields and to work with SA Rugby. And SA Rugby has taken on, it's fascinating, just as rugby in South Africa helped us overcome racial inequality, I think it can help us address gender inequality. We're building on a blank slate. And the women's rugby team, we're not at the same level as the Red Roses yet, but we're coming. We're coming fast. But for example, small things that I think could help just on the rugby space. For example, one of the greatest expressions of equality for our rugby is this year, the sponsorship deal for the SA Rugby team. It was universal. So if you have the kit sponsor for the Springboks, that same sponsors were worn by the Springbok women. Previously, they were separate. Now they wear the same kit. So there's no the difference in distinguishing between the men's or the women's team, save for the badge. And this is an important gesture of the teams are equal. The teams are the same. I think the other thing, and I'm a rugby veteran of 15 years. I hung up my boots when I was 29 with limited injuries. So I think I got 4 concussions. I broke 2 ribs, so I was good. It's the little niggles. But the thing is, I think the thing we always talk about is rugby values. And the value of rugby is, one thing that's always been true about rugby is it's 80 minutes of intense violence. And it is violent. But those 80 minutes means there's about 4, maybe 5 hours of just friendship and harmony with the teams. You enjoy your time with the teams. The value of rugby is that this is a game that we enjoy, but really it's about the bonds that we build together. So in terms of social inclusion in society, I think rugby is an excellent vehicle for it. I think the South African government will always back our sports teams because of what happened in '95 and what's happened since. We realized the uniting power of it, and we realized the value of a voice for change that can come from sport. And so, as a government, we generally support sports inclusion in main dichotomy. We see it as we're a bit of a sports-led country.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's essentially in a nutshell where I was going to go. But I think there's a lot of progress happening. And I think rugby is really an excellent vehicle for greater equality. I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I hope it doesn't clash with the Rugby Championship. It's the Southern Hemisphere gets scored. Yeah. We'll watch, but it's okay.
Well, as we think about matches, Italy has a big game today for Euros. And so, thinking about, specifically Italy and has created tremendous impact using sport as a bridge to bring people together. And recently they've implemented a cross-border initiative in the border regions of Kenya and Somalia to foster peace through sports, education, and community engagement. And I know that we're all very excited about the upcoming Milano Cortina Olympic Games that will be happening in February. So Danielle, my question for you is that with Italy preparing to host the 2026 Winter Olympics and Paralympic Games, how is government leveraging this global event in advance of long-term social development goals, but particularly in areas such as youth engagement, inclusion, and sustainability within Italy and through its international partnerships?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, but especially allow me to thank the organizers, Singapore, for hosting this venue, and everyone for the energy. My speech, unfortunately, when it comes to sport, cannot be as personal and perspective. But after we can definitely ensure of the intelligence and yeah, I would say really the energy which is even raising also to see chapter when it comes to sport. So the Winter Olympics are going to be a very important occasion to really show that unique part of sport to connect people, build the alliances, the important partnerships. Because indeed, they have this unique capacity to connect people across borders, across cultures, and so as a matter of fact, domestic Italy has been, always supporter, not only like a supporter of sport, we have a forum, soccer is part of the game, but it's not the only one, of course. But also when it comes to the fact that Argentina, welcome the headquarters, so a proud member of the group of friends. They will also be sponsoring the UN resolutions on the International League of Basketball, Football, the International Day is their place. So to make sure that, of course, our passion will be a kind of matches for this country. In other ways, the Milano Cortina, I think we are trying to bring forward another message, possibly a new message, another message with reader change, once again, for sport. The thing is that with the Olympics of Milano Cortina, the reason for the Olympics are going to be the Olympics of the people. This is the kind of mental that I'm going to be with together in the International Olympic Committee. And the idea is actually to have something that is going to happen not just in the city, but it's going to happen across an area of over 33,000 square meters. Who is very bad in making the 5 miles, so allow me to work on it. It's great kilometers. But just to say that it's not only Milano and Cortina, but it's also other small cities in the north of Italy, like Bormio and Milan, Serva, Tesero, Palazzo. Actually, it's very something personal because I'm coming from not this one, but I think a tinier village of the mountains, in Italy. So I can definitely, share the resilience and the dignity of this community. So it's a matter of proud, but it's also a matter to connect what we do to what we are. So there is always, a link with our identity and specific identity and cultural heritage that we bring deeply in the future. The fact of having this spread Olympics, of course, is also going to allow us to focus on the issue of sustainability. I mean, when you work, with different villages and different cities, you're not going to have this environmental partner of building that big infrastructure and may not be sustainable last time and may not be turning back useful after the big moments. And we're also trying to give value to the territories and services and their specifically, features and social challenges that they are facing. And of course, we are connecting with the private sector, and especially the local productive ecosystem, the small producers, small producers. But most importantly, of course, as we are gathering with and today, in this very inspiring event, and also with many women and many young people in the room, I want to say something about the full participation of youth in this process of preparation of the Winter Games, but also the fact that Milano Cortina is going to be one of the most gender balanced Winter Games ever. Basically embracing the efforts of the International Olympic Committee to advance gender equality in sport and reinforcing the role of the games in promoting equal opportunity and fostering a legacy of industry. When it comes to the youth, of course, youth involvement will be a big part of this picture. And a large volunteer program has been launched. It's called Team 2060. It will offer over 18,000 people above 18 years old the opportunity to engage in the villages, but also in we have folks around beauticians. And there are also a program of related cultural education activity that have already engaged 7 million people. With over 6 million people to the initiative of the cultural Olympians and 1.5 million young people involved in Generation 2060. So this is just to give a sense of what is coming in February. We have some, good time to go. During this time, we will also have the honor to facilitate the GA and resolution of the Olympic Games. Just to remind us, how it is important to also take the opportunity of these events to really see how sport can offer to foster dies or to foster peace and information. And as much as we can.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know from Los Angeles, we'll be paying close attention with us hosting the Olympics on 28. So there's so much to learn and be able to share from one country and one host city to the next. And as we look to Portugal and the demonstrated ongoing commitment to leadership and integrating sport to developing peaceful initiatives, but also using sport to push gender equity, to have sport be a vehicle for education and peace building. Katrina, I'm curious, building on this experience, and how does Portugal envision scaling its national and international efforts to ensure that sport becomes a more central tool to advancing youth empowerment, gender equality, and social cohesion years ahead?
Thank you very much, and thank you to Singapore, to Monaco, UN Women, and World Rugby for organizing the event. Coming last in this panel, there's very little I could add, except perhaps giving specific examples of how Portugal puts these concepts in practice. So I tried to summarize some of the ideas in a piece of paper, and I ended up organizing them around 3 topics. One on youth empowerment. So Portugal is investing first and foremost in building the local infrastructure. So the infrastructure for people to play the sports. And this means going across the country, especially in underprivileged areas, and building stadiums, the courts, all the different physical infrastructure, the equipment that is needed for all young persons, regardless of backgrounds, to have access to safe spaces to play and grow and develop these life skills that we were talking in the panel. We have, of course, a national strategy called Sports for All, or Sport para Todos, where we try to support community clubs and NGOs to use sports to teach teamwork, discipline, leadership, all of these important values. And we also develop cooperation programs with the community of Portuguese-speaking countries. So these are 9 countries. The community that was born in 1994, so also a special year, as a community of Portugal and former colonies of Portugal, and we are celebrating. Last year, we celebrated 50 years of Portuguese democracy, and many of these countries celebrated independence. And one of we could choose many ways to celebrate this important landmark, historical landmark, and to choose to cooperate in different areas, but sports is one of the most important ones. And so we have youth sports exchanges, regional tournaments, and these serve as well as tools for diplomacy and education, which we like to highlight. The second important message was on gender equality. And so Portugal is actively working to increase girls' participation in sport. And there, again, we have a national strategy. We need national strategies for all of these topics. So we have a national strategy for equality, which includes specific targets to boost the number of women that are coaches, referees, and sports leaders across all sports. We supported campaigns, so media campaigns to tackle gender stereotypes in media coverage of sports. The reach of these campaigns has been amazing. So millions and millions of people around Portugal and around the world have seen on TV, on social media, these campaigns, and hopefully inspire many girls to join different sports. We are also working with schools, so at the local level, to ensure equal access to physical education and sports for boys and girls. What does it mean in practice? It means bringing role models, so athletes to schools to inspire young boys and young girls, working on accessibility, so making sports available for free even. Of course, football is the number 1 sport in Portugal, as you can imagine. And the number 1 role model for every Portuguese boy or girl is Cristiano Ronaldo. But we are trying to diversify also these role models and bring younger athletes and also women athletes, of course, as well. But also develop specific training for the teachers, for the professors, the teachers that are in school, to understand how to inspire more girls, more boys as well, to participate in all of these different sports. A third point on social cohesion. So our refugee integration programs that we have in Portugal include sports as a specific key component. And so in Lisbon, sports clubs like Benfica and Sporting are running joint programs with the government and civil society to integrate migrants and especially migrant youth through sports, helping them build a sense of community, learning the language. Portuguese is a not so easy language to learn, but sports can help there as well, build trust, connect basically with each other. And we are sharing these experiences abroad and having cooperation with partner countries in Africa and Latin America on how to promote refugee integration through sports as well, and help rebuild communities and promote reconciliation. I'll end here with a message that we understand that sports can serve as a bridge towards sustainable development, but mostly between generations, between cultures and communities. And we are happy to help build those bridges as Portugal.
You would be remiss to say that football is very important to itself. And I'm very curious if Ronaldo is going to continue to the next World Cup. And and also the Olympics. So, hopefully, I'd like to honor an individual. So the government of the state of Qatar in the United Nations is in attendance. I'd love to give just a quick minute to maybe speak. Floor. Yes.
Thank you very much for the minute and thanks a lot for the energy here. I really would like to. My name is Ahmed Desmeti. I'm from the National Planning Council in Qatar, and maybe I like really the energy and how topic is really surrounded around sports. Because indeed, sports is actually a vehicle, it's actually an infrastructure that you can build on to achieve the SDGs. Because all multiple related to gender equality, even education, even health. All of that can be wired to basically sports. And being from Qatar, we have a case, of course, the World Cup in 2022 was for us a vehicle really to achieve many of the national vision goals to 2030 vision of the country, which is also wired to SDGs. Now, I'm not sure if you know the news today, we also applied for the Olympics 2036. We're happy to do that as well. And I think what we like about sports and those mega events, they actually bring the rally together. We have a big milestone, everyone gets together, and we actually start to use this as a catalyst to try to our goal and mission in parallel with the actual sports event. So happy to be part of the discussion. Thanks a lot for the minute, and more discussion of
Yes, thank you so much. And I think it's so true. I mean, much to what we shared today and in earlier panels, the power of sport and truly how it is a vehicle for change, gender equity, and thinking about connecting communities. And so I want to, thank all so much for your time and your reflections and the leadership and commitment that each of your country has using sport as an tool for creating change, especially towards the SDG goals, is so powerful. And I want to close this panel share a few statistics to remind everybody of the urgency around taking action. Women hold only 27% of seats in parliament globally. 58% of men ages 16 to 19 believe men are better political leaders. Women spend 2.5 times as many hours a day on unpaid care and domestic work as men. And 53% think women should prioritize family care for work. 1 in 8 women ages 15 to 49 experienced sexual or physical violence by an intimate partner in the last year. And nearly 1 in 4 young men believe that violence against a partner is acceptable in certain situations. We've heard so many powerful examples of how sport can help us achieve gender equity. And as you leave here today, what I hope is that you are motivated to be a part of using partnerships and making real change happen, especially as we go towards our SDG goals. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Ken.
Thank you. So we are very nearly at time. While this incredible group is clearing out, we just wanted to open it up to the floor for just 1 or 2 max reflections that anybody in the audience may want to share. Yes, right down here in front.
Good afternoon. My name is Gail Davis, and I am a UN CSO. I also support some of the member states as well as the CFO. So Portugal is a very, very, very dear country to me, as well as Italy. I've been spending the last month and a half over there. And the importance I want to say is that you have many women who are in sports. Aracira, Anish, Nazare, Algar, that are using sports as a way of connecting, believe it or not, with women fishermen, with education. I've been doing a research over there. So sports is definitely a catalyst, as well as the arts. And utilizing the arts and women and sport to bring the world together, because when you play sports, regardless of what's going on, what's happening is you're bridging the gap. You no longer see that as an enemy. You see that as a team, and you build as a team, and you connect as a team. So when you are at peace with another country, when you're playing with them, you can't go to war because you've just made friends. Thank you.
And we're gonna take one more, if you could walk the mic, back, just one of those two back there.
Hi, hello everybody. My name is Adiola and I'm the founder for Sport Through Education of Play project at the Initiative for Development through Sport Africa. And I'm really excited about this session today because I've been working on the sport for development space for the last decade. And everything that all the speakers on the panelists on the countries have shared is very amazing. I just want to point out two things. As a young person who is at the forefront of using the sport to catalyze social change in communities, one thing that stuck to my mind is how do we bring these initiatives to the communities that we serve? Not looking at it from a top-down approach, but ensuring that the communities that we serve are involved actively from the first phase to the last phase. In our Sport for Education project, and I'm really excited about how we are championing gender equity through sport. I've been an athlete all through university, and I still play actively soccer. And when I'm on the field of play, like one of the, I think, Ava, right? Your name is Ava? Yeah, you shared about how sport gave confidence on the field. Before I got a textbook in my hand, football was what I know about. It gave me space to be myself, and that's what we're helping every young girl who is involved in our program. That deconstructing leadership, right? Giving space to girls to thrive. And I'll just read quickly from here. Okay, for gender equity, we emphasize inclusive policies and investment in sport programs. Sorry. Yes. And we talked about resources are limited. However, what I want to point out is it's more costly to continue to do silo efforts and replicate top-down approaches that fail to connect to the communities that we serve. So true systems change start from when impact is felt on the ground, on the field of play. And I want to encourage every one of us to, involve the stakeholders that we work with rather than a top-down approach, because I feel like that is how that change will catalyze quickly. And every civil organization, government, individuals who are at the forefront of this change, let's collaborate together, right? A coalition to get funding to grassroots initiatives like myself who are working on the field of play, and then we can see the catalyzed change across nations, across communities and the globe. Thank you.
That was such an incredible way to end this. I'm going to kick this back over to Meg to take us home.
Thanks so much, Kim, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming today, for joining this conversation. I have the honor of wrapping up this event, and I want to say a big thank you to our co-sponsors, Singapore and Monaco, and to our co-hosts, UN Women and World Rugby, and all of the panelists, all of the government, all of the attendees, everyone joining online. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Your attendance shows that sport is valued as a tool for change across diverse stakeholders, and that we're looking for ways to work together to deliver more than the sum of our parts. Our speakers have been inspiring and have highlighted that we are standing at a pivotal moment where sport has opportunity to move into the mainstream as a tool that can catalyze transformative social change in an intentional and evidenced way. As we head through the case study, as we heard through the case study of 10 years of Pass It Back and the remarkable milestone of Rugby World Cup 2025 starting next month, sport has a unique ability to unite communities, break down barriers, and engage and empower young people, including girls and marginalized groups. But its potential is far from realized. The partnerships we've showcased and heard about today between Child Fund Rugby, World Rugby, UN Women, governments, civil society, business, highlight what is possible when we pool our resources, expertise, and passion. Just like we heard about the opportunity to bring together so many stakeholders on this really important agenda. Sport can be more than a game. It can be a strategic tool that can advance gender equality, promote well-being, and build inclusive, resilient communities. When integrated intentionally into national development strategies, sport can be a powerful lever for progress, capable of delivering critical outcomes that support our shared sustainable development goal commitments. Today, I urge all of us to embrace sport as a tool that can support our efforts to achieve the SDGs. Let's unlock its full potential, build strategic alliances, and commit to accelerated action to 2030. Together, we can ensure that sport is a force that drives equality, peace, and prosperity for everyone everywhere. Thank you.